Gotham is dying. This is the first arc of the mainline Batman in the new DC All-In era. Batman issues 153 to 157 by Chip Zdarsky. The Dying City. I hope you enjoy. The dark streets of Gotham City. A young family moves through the back alleys, trying to find their way. "I told you to just use the parking lot," the young wife says. But her husband shakes his head, reminding her that the parking lot was $50. He glances at his phone again and directs his family down another alley. But they are stopped halfway down as a man steps from the shadows. "Looks to me like you're a little lost," the man whispers. The husband reaches for his family to try and protect them, explaining that they are heading towards Palmerston and 5th. But the man shrugs. "Yeah, pal, you ain't getting there from here," he says as he steps into the light. "The city fenced off the other side of the alley. You need to head down one block, then take a left," the man explains with a big smile. Above them, Batman watches in mild surprise as citizens of Gotham City actually help each other out. "Everything good?" Gordon calls from the other side of the roof. Batman turns back and nods. "It's strange, isn't it? I can't remember the last time the city felt calm," Jim notes as he sips his coffee. The two sit, sipping on their coffee and discussing Wayne Enterprises' old Gotham revitalization projects, providing free healthcare and affordable housing. "Everything just feels possible right now. Gotham is getting better, and so are its people," Jim notes. Batman nods and looks up at the cityscape, staring at the new Nigmatech building. It wasn't that long ago that the news was discussing Edward Nygma being released from Blackgate Prison. A technicality had exonerated the Riddler from his crimes, and now he seemed to have turned over a new leaf, starting his own cryptocurrency and beginning Nigmatech, setting up shop in Gotham City. While many people seem to be giving Nygma a second chance, it is Mayor Nakano who doesn't trust the former villain. "Edward Nygma is a murderer, plain and simple. He's buying good publicity. I believe people deserve a second chance, but Nygma is free, not because he served his time, but because of a technicality," Mayor Nakano had said during an interview. Now, the mayor finds himself once again working late in his office. His faithful assistant, Sandra, stayed by his side, but they are interrupted when a distinguished-looking gentleman walks through the door. "Hello, Chris. A word in private?" the man asks the mayor. Sandra tries to protest, but Mayor Nakano holds up a hand and tells her to head home for the night. "I'll see you at the park opening tomorrow," he promises. When the two men are alone, Nakano stands tall, anger flashing across his face. "I know why you're here, Leonid, but I'm done. I put Vandal Savage in as police commissioner. I pushed through all your rezoning applications. If you want Nygma to have a free ride in this city, you're just going to have to run against me in 2 years, Nakano says. "I thought your Court of Owls was smarter than inviting a madman like Riddler in," Nakano finishes. Leonid smiles at him, pointing out that Nygma is good for Gotham City. "Well, I thought your #1 priority was your marriage. Do you really want the press finding out about the indiscretions?" Leonid asks. Nakano takes a step forward in anger, reaching for Leonid's tie. But they are interrupted before the heated argument can get worse. The door opens again to reveal Mrs. Nakano and the mayor's son. "Am I interrupting, or?" she begins. But Leonid shakes his head and pulls away from the mayor, stepping past Koyuki. "Not at all, Mrs. Nakano. Your husband is finished with me, apparently," Leonid says as he steps out. Koyuki looks at her husband, asking why he hasn't come home yet, but the mayor is tired. He takes his son and walks out of the room. "I can't do this right now," he whispers to his wife, who just stares in sadness at him. Meanwhile, Edward Nygma is sitting in his office, going over the paperwork for his business. Unhappy with how the mayor has slowed the process, but he looks up to see Batman standing by the window, his cape flowing in the breeze. "Hello, Edward. Burning the midnight oil?" Batman growls, but Edward merely smiles at him. "Are you here to sniff me out, detective? To give me a speech on crime and punishment?" Edward asks, but Batman shakes his head, explaining that he's going through his crypto code. "If you're selling Trojan horses, I'll find out," Batman reminds him. But Nigma smiles, explaining to Batman that he's tired of the game. Instead of trying to prove he's the smartest man in the city, he would just start being one and making money in the process. "Success isn't achieved by measuring against another man, is it? I built an empire in 2 months' time, all by myself," Nigma tells him. But Batman continues to stare at him. "I went to the 27th floor, took a look at your servers. Impressive. Working at incredibly high speeds, with a familiar bit of technology cooling them," Batman notes. Nigma nods, explaining that he's borrowed some of the tech from some of Batman's greatest enemies. Nigma motions over Batman's shoulder to the large female security guard that steps into the office. "After all this time, it's you committing the illegal acts, detective. Please leave before Rhonda here calls the police." "Stay on the lighted path, Nigma, because you know I'll be waiting in the dark," Batman growls before leaping out into the night. The next day, Mayor Nakano gets ready for another day at the office, but Koyuki finally tells him that she's leaving, that she can't deal with his constant distance from her, how cold and angry he always is. Mayor Nakano doesn't say anything, just pulling on his jacket and walking out the door. Across the city, Bruce Wayne has arrived at Wayne Enterprises, passing by the protesters who feel that Wayne's outreach programs only focus on the poor and lazy, and not the hard-working citizens of Gotham. Wayne sighs and walks past them into the offices, where he is greeted by his second-in-command, Mrs. Berkmo. She informs him of the protesters and the conspiracy theorists, but also informs him that Wayne Enterprises has spread itself too thin with these new policies, and that they should possibly think about a merger to help bolster the tech industry and make some profit to cover their new expenses. But Bruce is distracted by a news report about a diamond heist and quickly closes his laptop. "We'll figure it out, Rowan," Bruce says as he heads towards the door, apologizing that he's forgotten lunch with a beautiful supermodel that he needs to get to. Alone in the office, Rowan sighs and reaches for her phone. "It's me." He still doesn't see the problem. Rowan says to Nigma when the former villain picks up the phone. "That's unfortunate. You have to get him into the right headspace for a merger. I need the legitimacy of Gotham's favorite son's favorite corporation to unravel all the mayor's red tape," Nigma tells her. But Rowan shakes her head. "I think we need to start considering Plan B," she says. Meanwhile, the diamond thieves are speeding through the city, the GCPD right behind them. The driver swerves around a corner, but is shocked to see a brightly dressed vigilante standing before him. The man suddenly leaps to the side of the van, slashing down the side with his arm blades and cutting through the tires. The van goes out of control and begins to spin towards a group of bystanders, but Batman is suddenly there, slamming through the driver's side window and grabbing the wheel. He yanks it to the side and sends the van careening onto its side, saving everyone standing nearby. The back of the van suddenly swings open, and the thieves begin to run. "Don't worry about the runner! I've got him!" the brightly colored vigilante says as he lands next to Batman and draws a gun. He fires a round that hits the runner in the leg, dropping him. But Batman whirls, knocking the pistol away. "Firing a gun in the streets?" he growls, but the vigilante smiles and holds up his hands. "Easy, fellow hero," the man says. But suddenly, Commissioner Savage is there with several police officers. "Step back, Batman. This man just saved lives," Savage orders. The vigilante turns and salutes the commissioner, introducing himself as Commander Starr. I served my country, and now I intend to serve this city in a time of crisis. With your permission, of course, sir, Commander Starr says. Savage smiles at him and nods, but then glances at Batman, admitting the city probably doesn't need 2 vigilantes, and he orders the police to arrest the Dark Knight for his many crimes. But Batman launches a smoke pellet before the officers can react, and in a flash of light and smoke, he disappears. Savage looks at the new hero and smiles. Mr. Starr, I know we just met, but I believe this city needs you now more than ever, Savage says. Commander Starr nods and smiles back. I couldn't agree more, sir, he says. That night, Edward Nygma enters his server room. He taps a button on one of the servers and smiles. Meanwhile, Mayor Nakano enters his home, but he is not alone. Anger flashes across his face. Words are said. A gun is raised. The weapon thunders, and rounds slam into Nakano's chest. And as Bruce Wayne walks home, he finds Rowan standing in front of his house. There's been a claim filed against you for half of your shares. It's bad, Bruce. Do you have a brother? Rowan asks a shocked Bruce Wayne. The next day, Detective Bullock looks at the murder scene of Mayor Nakano. He steps outside with a sigh and a shake of his head and lights a cigarette. Figured the dynamic duo would be loitering out here, waiting for their turn, Bullock says as he looks up to see Batman and Jim Gordon waiting in the shadows cast by the police lights. He steps over to them, explaining that they haven't found anything yet, and the mayor's wife is already at the station. Bullock narrows his eyes at them both, explaining that he can't let them in. I just got back on the force, and I ain't giving my boss any ammo against me, Bullock says as he tosses away the cigarette. Batman nods. Keep the room clean. I'm going to go over it once your crew is gone, Batman growls. A short time later, Batman is talking to Sandra Tilford in her apartment.
I can't believe she begins to sob.
I'm sorry, Miss Tilford, but as Mayor Nakano's assistant, you'd know best who'd want him dead, Batman tells her. He leans down and offers her a tissue. She thanks him and blows her nose, explaining that Mayor Nakano had been fighting against Nygma and Vandal Savage.
There was also this guy, named Leonid Cole. Strange man, always made Chris nervous, she says between sobs.
Batman thanks her and heads for the window.
I just don't understand. He was a good man. Who looks at this world and thinks it needs one less good man?
She sobs as Batman leaves, but Batman stops and looks over his shoulder. The selfish men, the ones who see the good men standing in their way, he whispers to her. Shortly, Batman watches the surveillance feed from the GCPD interrogation room. Koyuki sits across from Bullock, who is demanding answers for her whereabouts last night. But her alibi isn't adding up, and the police want to unlock her phone. I want my lawyer. Please give me my phone call, Koyuki says quietly. Batman watches until the interrogation ends and comms with Gordon. See what you can get from Bullock. I just pulled up info on a new suspect, a local businessman named Leonid Cull. I'll give him a visit and get some answers, Batman says. Later that night, Edward Nygma sits across from Leonid Cull and Mr. Horgan, former deputy mayor and now official mayor pending an election. Quite the night for you, Mr. Mayor, Nygma says with a smile as he takes a bite of steak. Horgan smiles nervously as he looks at the two men. I know I promised you a pliable government, Nygma, and I'm sorry I couldn't deliver that with Nakano. But luckily, Jacob here knows what's best for Gotham, Leonid Cole says with a smile as he pours more wine. The three men raise their glasses in triumph. An impromptu wake or a celebration of a job well done? Batman asks as he steps from the shadows. Nigma smiles at the Dark Knight. Ah, I was wondering when the entertainment would arrive, Nigma notes. Batman looks at them all, noting that while Nigma most likely has an alibi, seeing Leonid Cull with him is suspicious. Finding you with Nigma moves you up my list of suspects, Batman growls. But Leonid leans back in his chair and smiles. Suspects? For the mayor's death? We're businessmen, not murderers. In fact, the only one committing a crime here is you. The restaurant is closed. Private event, Leonid notes as police step up behind Batman. But the Dark Knight moves fast. He whirls and kicks one of the officers away, grabbing another and throwing him onto the table. Another falls quickly. Batman's eyes widen as he reaches for the officer's pin and rips it away, turning and tossing it at Leonid. I heard rumors there was a new leader of the Court of Owls. Now it all makes sense, Batman notes as he motions to the owl-shaped pin. Batman looks to all three men, noting that Mayor Nakano was standing in their way. Now, which one of you pulled the trigger? He ponders. But Leonid holds up the pin and smiles. As I said, I'm no murderer. Though I could have killed poor Christopher a million silent ways, detective. A bullet is loud. Owls are quiet. I'm innocent, Leonid tells him. Batman glares at him for a moment before turning and heading towards the exit. One of you killed him, or both of you did. Every murder leaves evidence. I'll find it. Get your affairs in order, Batman tells them before disappearing. Later, Bruce stands in Wayne Tower looking down on the protesters below. He turns back to Rowan, questioning how they can't see that Gotham is getting better. She nods and holds up a folder, explaining that she's had security look into the case of Bruce's long-lost brother, explaining that his name is William Pureford, and his mother used to work as a nurse at Gotham General alongside Thomas Wayne. Bruce sighs and nods, looking at the paperwork. Bruce, we can litigate this, do the DNA tests, but it'll be a media nightmare. My suggestion? Sign over half your shares, then buy them back like nothing happened. Wrapped up in an NDA, Rowan suggests. She looks at Bruce, asking whether he actually thinks his father could have done this. But Bruce shakes his head. He doesn't know. Later, he enters Leslie Tompkins' clinic, asking her about what she knows of this woman. Leslie sighs and bows her head, closing her eyes at the memories. Her name was Tara, she finally admits, explaining that the Waynes were going through a rough patch at the time, but Thomas admitted everything to Martha, and they managed to work through it. Your father made a mistake, but there's no world where he or your mother would abandon one of their children. They were good people, you know this, Leslie tells him. But Bruce looks at her, admitting that he doesn't really know his parents, that he merely has the memories of childhood frozen in time. But suddenly, the clinic erupts in violence. Protesters outside throw rocks and shatter the window. Bruce rushes outside, ordering the nurses to lock the door as he confronts the protesters. What's wrong with you? They're helping people in there, Bruce shouts in anger. But the protesters don't care, wanting only violence. Someone steps up behind Bruce, a gun in hand. Before things can escalate too far though, Commander Starr suddenly arrives and punches the man to the ground, knocking the pistol away. He knocks the criminal unconscious and turns to Bruce with a smile. It's unfortunate when bad actors infiltrate well-meaning protesters to make them look bad. I'm sure you'll agree, Mr. Wayne. Nobody wants violence. They just want their voices heard, and for the truth to see the light. No good man should be scared of the truth, Commander Starr says, as Bruce glares at him. That night, Batman arrives at the mayor's house, finding Jim already scouring the scene. Bruce walks in and looks around, explaining that he's already seen Mayor Nakano's body and it had been scrubbed with bleach. He looks around, noting that the scene has been scrubbed clean, and that everything points to someone who knew what they were doing. Maybe things escalated to murder. Killer tried to cover their tracks, Batman notes as he looks around. He looks back to Gordon, explaining that he doesn't think it was Leonid or Nigma. Leonid would do it quietly, and Nigma would make Nakano's death something spectacular, Batman says. Gordon nods and moves his light around. Sure, but what if it's a feint? Kill the mayor in a way they would never be associated with, Gordon notes. But their conversation is interrupted as Batman's comms beep. Bullock comes over the line, explaining that they finally cracked the wife's phone. I've kept it tight for now while I figure out what to do, but she had texts, a lot of them. It isn't a smoking gun, but it's pretty damn close. Koyuki was having an affair, Bullock explains. Batman's eyes go wide at the name that Bullock gives him. He turns back to find Gordon's flashlight shining on him, his service revolver in hand and aimed at Batman. I didn't! I was defending myself! I don't know how! Jim gasps, but Batman rushes forward, knocking the gun away and slamming into Gordon, bringing him down. A gun? You'd point a gun at me? Batman growls as he knocks Gordon to the floor. But the gravity of the situation hits him, and Batman slides to the floor as well, staring at his old friend. I didn't mean to. You've got to believe me. Jim gasps as he holds his head in his hands, and Batman just stares at him. It was 13 weeks ago that Jim came into the private investigations office that he shared with Bullock, complaining about all they did was follow potential cheaters around. I know we need the money, but all our jobs are either insurance scams or infidelity cases. It's depressing, Gordon tells his partner. Bullock nods and hands him a note. Well, prepare to be more depressed. We've got another one. Prepaid. Woman is using an alias and insisting on talking to you, Bullock tells him. It was 10 weeks ago that Jim met with Koyuki at a dark restaurant, explaining to her that he'd followed her husband and Mayor Nakano wasn't cheating. He was just very dedicated to his job, which Jim understands, trying to explain that jobs such as these take everything from a man, especially if he's truly dedicated. It's going to be okay, Koyuki. You're not alone, Jim tells her, reaching for her hand. 8 weeks ago, the two have grown close and walk through Gotham Park, talking about their children, but their conversation is interrupted. Excuse me, sir. Can you tell me which way to get to the mayor's office? A big thug asks as he steps out of the shadows and grabs at Jim. Another rushes forward and grabs Koyuki, dragging her towards a nearby van. Jim rushes forward as the first thug pulls a gun. Jim manages to knock him away and grab the weapon, bringing it up fast and shooting the second thug in the shoulder, saving Koyuki. Jim! Oh my God! She shouts as she rushes back to his side. Thanking him, she holds him close in the rain. We can run, we can still, she whispers, but the words are lost as the two kiss. Time passes. The two get closer, meeting to take part in their secret affair. But Mayor Nakano finds out. He is approached by Leonid Kull, who has his own pictures. One night after they've spent time together, Koyuki suggests that they flee to Metropolis and start over, but Jim isn't sure. 3 nights ago, Jim had gone to Koyuki's house, but he didn't find her there. Instead, he found the mayor. She's not here, Nakano says as he pours himself a drink, explaining that they had a fight and she had probably left for her sisters. It's safe to say she's not going to run away with you. I told her how that would go, how I would get custody of our son, how all our worlds would fall apart, Nakano says as he turns around. For a brief moment, his face was plastered with sadness. Jim crosses the room, explaining that Koyuki doesn't love Nakano anymore. "Your marriage is a sham. Just let her be happy for once," Jim tells him. But Nakano throws his glass, reminding Jim that Koyuki has depression, that Jim is merely a distraction. "Why can't you see that you are the reason she's depressed?" Jim shouts at him. Nakano lashes out, hitting Jim across the face. Jim blocks another attack and hits Nakano back, knocking him away. But the mayor recovers and grabs a heavy award as a weapon. He stands and rushes forward. Jim pulls his pistol, and everything goes dark. Present day, Jim sits in the GCPD, explaining everything to Bullock. Jim finally looks up at his old partner, explaining that while they did fight, there's no way he could have shot Nakano. He doesn't remember pulling the trigger. "Tell him, Harvey. Tell him to find out who did this," Jim says. Bullock nods as he heads for the door. "Sure thing, Jimbo. Sure thing," he says softly. On the roof, Bullock tells Batman everything that Jim said. "He didn't do it. He couldn't have," Batman growls. But Bullock shakes his head and puffs on a cigarette. "He very much could have," Bullock says, pointing out that Jim had motive and means. But Batman shakes his head. "He didn't do it, and I'm going to prove it," he growls before leaping off into the night. Batman returns to the bunker, pondering the crime. He doesn't understand how good men can fall. The news plays in the background. The protests have gotten larger, more violent. The news interviews Commander Starr, who promises that the violence is not perpetuated by the protesters who merely want their voices to be heard, but by Antifa factions who have been inciting violence to lessen the message. "My sources indicate that they intend to start bombing symbols of capitalism, trying to drag this great city down into a haven for communists and socialists. Gotham must stand against this tyranny," Commander Starr proclaims. Meanwhile, across town at Nigmatech, Rowan is meeting in secret with Edward. "I shouldn't be seen here, Edward," she notes as Nigma pours a coffee. He nods and takes a sip. Rowan explains that the new mayor has finally pushed through Nigma's permits, and it seems like he doesn't need a merger with Wayne Enterprises anymore. But Edward shrugs. "But with the new Wayne heirs' shares about to come to the market, I'd be foolish not to scoop them up. I'm not going to merge with your company. I'm going to acquire it. Nigmatech is going global," Edward tells her with a smile as he looks out over the city. The next day, Bruce arrives at the address of his potential half-brother. "Excuse me, sir. I'm gonna have to ask you to keep moving," a security guard says as he steps out into the street. But Leonid Kull is also there. "Surely, Mr. Wayne, you understand that it's wildly inappropriate to approach a newly discovered brother who is suing you for half your company's shares," Leonid notes, introducing himself as the one helping Mr. Pureford. But Bruce shakes his head. "Well, Leonid, I don't think it's too much to ask to talk to a man who says that he's my brother," Bruce tells him as he takes a step forward. But things escalate quickly. The guard moves fast, hitting Bruce and knocking him to the street. But Bruce is fast and moves quickly to tag Leonid's shoe with a tracker. The guards kick Bruce again, and he plays it up, going fetal in the street and moaning in pain. "Damn, didn't think when I woke up I'd be beating a billionaire," one of the guards joked as they walked back inside, leaving Bruce alone in the street. That night, he returns to the scene of Nakano's murder, moving through the darkness and recording everything he sees. "Bullock is right. Jim might have done this, but I need to see it. I need to see him pull that trigger before I can bring myself to believe. Damn it, Jim. You're the best man I know." Batman records, but he stops and reaches down for a small piece of plastic. Later, he heads back to the GCPD and speaks with Jim in the interrogation room. Batman managed to find cameras in the street, cameras that showed reflections of Jim leaving the scene, his bloody clothes tucked away in a plastic bag to be disposed of. Jim suddenly breaks down. "I did it. I barely remember, like a dream. But it's true, isn't it? I did it," Jim says as he takes off his glasses, tears in his eyes. But Batman stops. He looks at Jim's glasses, noting the broken piece on one side. "Your glasses, they broke in the fight?" Batman whispers, remembering the piece that he found at the scene. He looks at the glasses, noting the frames are hollow. Suddenly, the GCPD alarms begin to sound. Commissioner Savage has discovered Batman's presence and wants him arrested. "Damn it! Block the door!" Batman orders. Jim doesn't hesitate and moves his chair to the door, blocking it as the cops try to come in. The two-way mirror suddenly shatters inward, and an officer aims his weapon at Batman. "Get on the floor!" he orders, but Batman moves fast, kicking the officer and knocking his weapon away. More flood into the room as Jim moves to help Batman, who is still trying to look at the glasses. "Hold them off!" Batman shouts. Another officer moves up behind him, but Batman twists and elbows him in the face, knocking him away. He grabs the glasses, using his tech to look closer. The glasses are Mad Hatter tech, mind control, but there's something different. Inside is a small symbol, a question mark. Outside, the city streets of Gotham are on fire. Protests and counter-protests have met in the streets. The police are outmatched as violence spreads, and Commander Starr does nothing but watch, a smile plastered on his face as the chaos makes its way to Wayne Enterprises. Inside the GCPD, the officers are calling for backup as alarms and red lights flash. They rush to the interrogation room, where Batman and Jim Gordon are holding off the cops. "What did you find?" Jim shouts as he whirls and punches an officer. "Riddler." Batman growls as he hits a group of officers with a taser in his gauntlet. Batman pushes aside the barricade as he makes his way into the hall. But Bullock is waiting for him, his pistol raised. "Jim was set up. His glasses have Mad Hatter designed mind control. It's Enigma, Harvey." "Of course it is," Batman snaps. Bullock stares at the glasses for a moment before lowering his weapon, motioning for Batman to flee. Batman whirls and rushes for the exit. Meanwhile, Enigma Tech Tower, Edward is looking down on the burning city and smiling. "He's coming?" Leonid asks from a nearby chair. Edward nods as he turns and pulls on his Riddler mask. "He is. It took him a while to clue in, but he just left Gordon and the glasses," Enigma says, explaining that he's finally happy that Batman has discovered his puzzle. "You're insane," Leonid notes as he stands, but Enigma shakes his head. "No, I'm rich," he admits. He turns back to his computer screens, thanking Leonid for his part in the game, providing the mayor and Owl Goons for the fight against Batman. "I believe we're done here, comrade," Enigma says over his shoulder. Leonid stares at him for a moment. "How long have you known?" he asks. Edward shrugs. "Oh, forever. Now, you'd best be going, Mr. Cull. My guest awaits," Edward says with a smile. Downstairs, Batman moves through the entrance of the tower, but he stops short as he finds Sandra Tilford trapped in a death machine. "Riddle me this. I am a helpful pouch of fluid. What am I?" Enigma asks as his face appears on a screen. "Assist. Assist," Batman growls without hesitation. Batman moves quickly, grabbing Sandra and pulling her off the machine. "An easy one, but another life is on the line, Detective," Enigma says, informing that the Mad Hatter is locked away somewhere in the building, while also pointing out that terrorists are trying to blow up buildings throughout the city. "Riddle me this. What is Mr. Freeze's favorite number?" Riddler asks as he laughs. The monitor flickers and shows images of the city, of the riots and fires, with Commander Starr doing nothing but watching. Run! Get to the police and tell them to evacuate Wayne Enterprises if they haven't already, Batman orders. Sandra nods and looks at him in shock. What are you gonna do? She asks. Batman turns and stalks away. Win the game, he growls. Outside the police station, Jim has been released. He finds Koyuki outside and rushes to her, smiling as he tells her what happened. He reaches for her, but she pushes him away. Don't touch me! My husband, the father of my son, is dead, Koyuki says, reminding Jim that he still went to her home to confront her husband, and he made this all about himself, just like her husband did. My son has no father, and you smile. This isn't about you, she snaps and turns away, walking away into the night. Jim sits on the front steps, unsure what to do next. Thunder suddenly rumbles above him as rain begins to fall on the city. Meanwhile, Batman has reached the 32nd floor and found Nigma's guards and Court of the Owl goons, but he moves through them quickly, dodging their attacks and knocking them out. After a moment, he kicks through the door to find the Mad Hatter. Jervis, listen to me! Get out of here and get checked out. Take the stairs, Batman growls. But the Hatter looks at the Dark Knight with shock and anger.
Batman, he's perverted my designs, my beautiful hats. He can't have them.
The Hatter gasps before turning and running away in the opposite direction that Batman ordered.
Here's another one, Batman. Not in pounds, but I measure weight. I won Beauty's love, which started as hate,
the Riddler begins to say over the radio, but Batman has had enough. He begins to snap at Nigma, solving his riddles which point out that Leonid Kull is actually Russian, and that the Court of the Owls is now under Russian control. Nigma smiles in his control room.
It would seem so. Not a bother to me, but I suspect a bother to you.
Nigma laughs. But Batman points out that Nigma is a fool. If he gave Leonid access to his systems in crypto, that software could give him access to everything. Banks, private data, nuclear weapons, Batman points out. Nigma's eyes suddenly widen as he realizes his mistake. He shouts to Batman that he needs to get to the primary server on floor 21. Batman moves quickly, leaping out of the window and swinging down to the 21st floor. He moves into the server room, dashing between the rows as Nigma directs him. But two owl thugs suddenly leap from the shadows, stabbing at Batman with their knives. Batman grabs one and throws him into a row of servers with a bellow of rage. He twists and grabs another in a headlock as a third joins them.
Batman? I can't see or hear anything in the room. Are you there?
Nigma calls over the radio. Another thug tries to stab Batman in the chest. Gotham is ours, he whispers as he leans in. But Gordon is suddenly there, bashing the owl goon in the back of the head with a fire extinguisher. He reaches down and helps Batman up. Jim, how did you? Batman gasps. The security desk in the lobby is lit up, and I just followed the red ones. Tell me what to do, Jim tells him with a shrug. Batman checks the servers, discovering that Kull has already taken the cryptography code. He turns to Jim and asks him to get to the top floor and get Nigma, while Batman goes after Kull, who thankfully never found the tracker that Bruce Wayne put on his shoe. You armed? Batman asks. Jim shakes his head, and Batman hands him his utility belt. Take this. I've got a spare in the car, Batman explains. Meanwhile, Jervis is still in the building, having retrieved his precious hat, but his eyes widen as he glances over the desk and finds a brick of C4 with less than 10 minutes on its timer. Batman has already moved outside and races for the Batmobile. His phone chirps, and Batman answers it to hear Rowan's voice. "Rowan, is everything okay?" Batman asks in his Bruce voice. Rowan tells him that there were no bombs inside Wayne Enterprises, but explains that this is all her fault. She had been working with Nigma. He is behind the riots, as he was trying to drive Wayne Enterprises' stock prices down. "I helped find your brother. I wanted to make the merger happen, to make the company strong," she gasps. Batman pauses for a moment. "Rowan, it's going to be okay. Just tell me, did the police say if there were any other buildings targeted?" Batman asks. Meanwhile, Nigma is scrambling in his office, grabbing papers and stuffing them into his bag. But Jim suddenly barges through the door. Nigma raises an eyebrow at him. "Clearly you're not here to arrest me, ex-commissioner," Nigma notes. Jim nods and grabs him by the jacket and tie, slamming the villain against the wall. "No, I'll leave that to the cops. I'm here to beat you within an inch of your damn life," Jim growls as he punches Nigma hard in the face. He rears back and hits him again. "You made me kill a man!" he bellows, but Nigma shakes his head. "Didn't make you sleep with the mayor's wife, Jim," he snaps. Suddenly, Nigma's bodyguard is there, grabbing Jim and throwing him away. She reaches for a desk and lifts it over her head, bringing it down on Jim. But he manages to roll out of the way and throws 2 smoke pellets from the utility belt. "It's too late to run, Nigma!" Gordon shouts as he rushes through the smoke, throwing batarangs at the woman and knocking her down. He whirls to find Nigma running for the door, but a well-aimed batarang slices into Edward's leg and trips him up. Jim rushes forward and grabs the criminal. "I'm not done with you yet, Nigma," Jim growls, but something catches his eye, and he turns to see a brick of C4 beneath a nearby desk. It's time almost up. Batman races through the city, tracking Leonid to a nearby runway, but something isn't adding up. Who is Commander Starr in all of this? Batman begins to put the pieces together. If Nigma was working with Leonid Cole, that would mean that Commander Starr is a Russian agent, working in the city and helping the rioters. He's well skilled with weapons and hand-to-hand combat. Suddenly, it dawns on Batman. Commander Starr is a former Russian mercenary, the KG Beast. In the city, Commander Starr stands tall as the protests and fires rage around him. He holds up his pistol and looks to his followers. "Gotham is ours!" he shouts, and his followers echo his cries into the night air. Batman revs the engine of the Batmobile as he screeches around the corner and jumps onto the runway. Ahead of him, he can see Cole's private jet taking off. Batman launches the ejector seat with a tap of a button, and he swoops through the air and fires his grapple gun, latching onto the just airborne plane. Meanwhile, Bullock has arrived at Nigma Towers to find the upper floors engulfed in flames. "It's a miracle there were no other bombs," he notes. But the front door suddenly opens to reveal Jervis Tetch leading a group of security guards. "Oh, there were, but I convinced a building full of friends to find and defuse them," Tetch says with a smile. The cops immediately raise their weapons, and Bullock orders him to drop the hat. "I mean no harm, officer, this time. Batman saved my life, and so I endeavored to save him. A fair game, though not entirely successful," Jervis says as he bows and lowers his top hat. On board his plane, Leonid has dropped all pretense of being American. "It went as well as we could have hoped. The driver is with me, but Anatoly is still on the ground," he says in Russian over the phone. But a shadowy figure in Russia doesn't care if the KG Beast is brought home, as he has already done his job. Suddenly, the plane's door explodes inwards and Batman swoops in. Air rushes past as he kicks the first Russian merc and moves on to the next group, hitting them hard and fast. "Turn this plane around, now!" Batman growls as Leonid is knocked to the floor. But the Russian agent sees a nearby pistol and begins to crawl towards it. Back in the streets, Commander Starr is still driving the crowds to chaos. "Gotham belongs to us! Gotham belongs to the citizens! We built this city, and the elite would give it away! We need to show them that we have the power!" he shouts. He turns and sees Rowan fleeing with 2 police officers. Starr raises his pistol and fires, dropping one of the cops quickly. He rushes forward and slams into the second, driving him to the ground. "They are trying to protect socialist executives like Miss Rowan Burkmo here," Starr says as he grabs the woman by the arm and drags her back to the crowd. "CEO of Wayne Enterprises, the company that turned Gotham into a haven for undesirables. We'll have to make an example of her, won't we?" Commander Starr bellows. Back at the top of Nigma Tower, Gordon comes to find the entire floor in shambles. Nigma is nearby and struggles to his feet. He collapses onto Gordon and wraps his hands around the former cop's throat. "You should have gone away, Gordon. A nice little vacation in Blackgate. But you just had to wake up." Nigma snaps as his hands tighten, choking the life out of Gordon. "A pathetic old man, floundering through life. You have nothing to lose. I have everything. I finally made something of myself. I won't let you take it from me," Nigma growls. But the floor suddenly gives way beneath them, and they both tumble into the dark. Back on the plane, Leonid raises his weapon and aims at the Dark Knight as Batman continues to fight the mercenaries. "It would be more symbolic with your Superman, but there will still be much rejoicing when I drag your body through the streets of Moscow," Leonid snarls as he fires. But Batman raises his gauntlet and deflects the round. The bullets bounced back through the cabin and into the cockpit. Leonid looks down in shock at the wounds in his chest. "Of course," he sighs as he slides to the floor, his blood splattered on the wall behind him. Batman rushes to his side, glaring down at the dying man. "Damn it, Leonid. I understand the play for Nigma's tech, but why Commander Starr? Why tear down what Bruce Wayne was building?" Batman declares. Leonid smiles up at him, explaining that Russia uses Gotham as a horror story to frighten its citizens. "Ruled by the wealthy few from the shadows. It's America. We use it to scare children, to remind the citizens of what's right. A symbol of everything wrong with your country," Leonid gasps before dying. Batman glares at him, realizing this entire plot is about propaganda. But he turns. The plane is going down. The stray bullets have hit the cockpit controls and one of the pilots, and the plane can't climb. They are plummeting into the city. Batman quickly taps his comms. "Harvey, I'm in a 100-foot wingspan jet heading for 17th Street. I need the street cleared for 5 blocks. Batman shouts into the radio. "On it," Bullock shouts back, working fast in the streets to clear everything. But Vandal Savage gets on the line, ordering his men to stand down, refusing to help Batman do anything. But Bullock and the other officers refuse to listen to the order and move to clear the streets at Batman's request. On board the plane, Batman knows the wings will clip the buildings once the plane comes down. He has no choice but to lash himself to the plane. He tosses out exploding gel and takes off both wings, riding the falling plane as smoke and fire billow around him. On the streets, the protesters are cheering as Commander Starr begins to string up Rowan on a lamppost. But the hero looks up in shock as the plane comes barreling overhead. Finally, the plane slams into the ground in front of him, and Batman launches forward.
Anatoly, let's go! Batman growls as he swoops through the air, lashing out and punching KG Beast hard in the face. But the brightly dressed merc merely smiles and twists into the blow, whirling and punching Batman hard in the stomach. Gladly, he snarls. Back in Nigma Tower, Nigma is holding onto a piece of rubble. The city is far below him as he struggles to pull himself up.
It would at least be nice if the headlines were, "Tech Genius Kills Ex-Cop Looking for Revenge."
He gasps as he holds on, but Jim is struggling to save the criminal, reaching out for Nigma's hand. Damn it, Nigma. That's just not gonna happen. Nakano's death was one too many, Jim says, but Edward just smiles.
Amazing. After everything I've done to you,
you're still under the illusion there's such a thing as a good man, Nigma says. But his hand slips and he begins to fall, but Jim refuses to lose. He leaps after the Riddler, grabbing hold of him and firing one of Batman's grapple lines. The two swing back towards the building and slam through a lower window, landing hard on the ground. I'm not a good man, Nigma, but I'm doing my best, Jim whispers. Back on the street, Batman whirls and kicks KG Beast in the face. I'm honestly impressed. The accent, the mannerisms, gone, Batman growls. KG Beast smiles and turns back, punching the Dark Knight in the face. Many months of training by my country's best, KG Beast gloats. But Batman hits him again. So the Russians fixed you up, fixed your neck, your hand, and all you had to do was come to my city and get your ass handed to you. Batman growls, but KG Beast pops twin blades out of his gauntlets and rushes forward, stabbing at Batman. The two trade blows back and forth, with Batman blocking and dodging the sharp weapons. He finally knocks KG Beast away, knocking him into a nearby police car. Batman charges forward and leaps atop the villain, hitting him again and again, cracking his mask and drawing blood. But he finally stops. He looks up to see the protests and riots have stopped. The crowd is silent, watching Batman beat this man within an inch of his life. Batman pulls himself away from his enemy. He stares out into his city. He has won, but it doesn't feel like it. 1 week later, Bruce Wayne goes to Gotham General, finally confronting the man that claims to be his brother. You come to thank me for dropping the case? William Pureford asks after leading Bruce to a private room, but Bruce just shakes his head. That's not why I'm here. I just want to know, why drop the case? Bruce asks. William looks at him and finally explains, saying that he never wanted to win, that he always knew it was possible that he could be a Wayne, but he never cared about the money. Look at you. You're a mess. Billionaire playboy, constantly in the news, and almost never for anything good. A waste of life and a waste of an inheritance. It's great you're doing more now. You seem to have grown up, William says. He admits that he never wanted Bruce's money, just wanted him to know that he could lose it, that he should be doing something more meaningful with it. Bruce nods quietly. I know you can't see it, but I'm trying my best. If you're my brother, I'll see to it you get what you deserve, what should rightfully be yours, Bruce says. William hands him a folder, explaining that they did a DNA test, but he never looked at it. He smiles at Bruce, explaining that he doesn't want any money. I'm just happy being me, he says. Bruce shakes his hand, and the two finally part ways. Outside, Leslie Tompkins is waiting. Bruce hands her the folder as he gets in his car, revealing that William isn't his brother. The two sit there for a moment, and Bruce admits that he doesn't know how to move past this. Thomas cheated on Martha, and Jim had an affair with a married woman. How do you forgive good men for their mistakes? How do I forgive myself for Failsafe and Jason? Jim is one of the best men I know. How do I look at him the same way after this? Bruce asks quietly. Leslie smiles at him, explaining that Bruce needs to look at him as a friend, that everyone struggles, even good men. Jim Gordon is human, so just be human with him, she says softly. That night, Gordon waits on the rooftop with a cup of coffee. "Did you save me a cup?" Batman asks as he steps out of the shadows. Gordon nods and hands him a thermos. "Didn't think you'd show," Jim admits. Batman shrugs. He explains that the Court of Owls have gone back underground. The Russians were defeated, but Nigma is already out on bail. "He's insisting the glasses were a setup from the Russians. I hate to say it, but I think he's going to buy his way out of this," Batman growls. Gordon nods and sips his coffee. "Such is the world," he says. He looks at Batman and explains that Koyuki is left and refuses to talk to him. He sighs and admits that he knew what he was doing was wrong, but he was happy to feel something again, that he felt like he was saving and protecting her from an unhappy marriage. "I'm thinking of reapplying to the Force. It's the only way I know how to help people. And to try and make the system better, I need to prove myself again," Gordon says softly. Batman nods and heads for the edge of the roof, reports of crime echoing in his comms, but he stops and looks back at his friend. "You're not alone. We'll do this together. Mistakes were made. Mistakes will always be made," Batman says as he pulls out his grapple gun. "Both of us are human, Jim. Flawed. There's no way around that. All we can try to do is to be good men," Batman says before leaping off into the night, ready to protect his city.
And that was Volume 5 of Chip Zdarsky's Batman. What did you think? Let me know in the comments below. And of course, be sure to like and subscribe to help the channel out. I'm Dan with Comicstorian, and we will see you next time. Rest in peace, Benny.